opinions expressed on the internet would be censored.
We are live. We are live. This is real. Welcome back to Unauthorized Opinions, UOPod.com. Like, share, subscribe.
It's pure propaganda and it's super cringe, by the way.
I literally went to the polls with nothing in mind. I saw a can of orange soda in the parking lot. And I was like, yeah, there we go. An unopened can of orange soda just chilling in the parking lot. I was like, yeah, I got to vote for Trump, dude.
Your podcast sucks. It's mental, mate. It's absolutely mental.
I'll be honest, I thought it was kind of offensive when you talk so much about the Loch Ness Monster.
Political climate.
And Andrew, treat yourself, okay? Especially if you start, I don't know, getting in good with homeless people.
Unauthorized Opinions, streaming everywhere at uopod.com. Cock-a-doodly-doodly-doo, man. Oh my god, we're back. It's Sunday. The day after 420, bro. Hopefully you celebrated something, I guess. We're early in the podcast. There's no celebrations happening. Welcome back. UOPod.com, Rumble, X, YouTube, Twitch. And if you're listening, audio, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, all the fixins. We're bearded up. We've got our Echo Unlimited shirt on. It's right side up out because I remembered not to mirror the camera. We've got lots to talk about today. There's so much going on about things not being white. There's so much going on about that. And I think even though we're on the tail end of this happening, of this culturally transpiring, there are still, a few stragglers behind, and a couple of them we're going to get to today. One of them being an 80s actor. DC Comics is hard into this right now. We're going to have some Dana White stuff. We're going to even have the guy who invented pop-up ads. And maybe we'll get to some Patrick Mahomes if we, he's got some interesting things to say about, gun control. So thanks everybody for watching. Podcast growing every single week. Don't forget the Patreon. Super chats will be read on air. Like, share, and subscribe if you do, please. Now, like me, and I know you are like me, bearded and everything. We need to shave. But you've probably seen a bunch of the 80s cult classics. There's Breakfast Club. There's Ferris Bueller. There's 16 Candles. I'm a big fan of that. I tried to watch it once. Pretty in Pink, I've never seen. Uncle Buck, Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. All these movies are written by pretty much one guy named John Hughes. Now, one of the women that was in a lot of these movies, you'll see on the thumbnail, is Molly Ringwald. Now, that's not somebody from the Vacation movies, which that guy also wrote, but she is the redhead from Breakfast Club. She was like 16, 17, 18 when her career popped off in the 80s. Variety, as we bring this up, gave her an award recently. I don't even remember what the award is. We wrote about it here. She received the award for Creative Vanguard, whatever the hell that means, right? We just wanted to invite this woman onto our platform so she could talk. And before we get into exactly what she said, everything is a remake now. She was asked about remakes. We're at Ghostbusters 72. The Nun 35. There's going to be another Ninja Turtles remake. There's another Transformers movie coming out. We've got Godzilla movies coming out. Godzilla versus, Mecha Streisand. But somebody asked Molly about the possibility of remakes for these 80s classics that she's in. Again, Breakfast Club being the one that I most enjoyed of hers, or that she was in. And here's what she said in response to the idea of there being a remake.
Those movies, the movies that, I'm so well known for, they were very much of a time, and if you were to remake that now, I think it would have to be much more diverse, and it would have to be, you couldn't make a movie that white now.
We couldn't make a movie that white.
Those movies are really very white.
Oh.
and they don't really represent what it is to be a teenager in a school in America today, I don't think. So,
Woo!
but I think that they were really great, and they were of that time, and they really represented John Hughes's experience, and that's what he was writing to his own personal. Those movies.
Writing to his own personal experience. So she's talking out of two sides of her mouth, both sides of her mouth, even in this. They were way too white, and these types of environments don't exist anymore, but also is from John Hughes's own experience. So again, this is a theme that we're noticing on and on and on. We talked about it with the Tomb Raider board game that said it was a colonialist thing. We talk about it with all sorts of remakes that happen where they say this stuff is racist. Schools do this, right? Where they say our founders are racist, tra la la la. But you got to give us money still. That's the thing. Molly Ringwald said these things were very white, and these stories were so white. But if we need to make money off of them again, we just need to change them. So, on the face of it, it's too ethnically, not diverse. But if we still want to make money off of it, we can do so by adhering to the diversity gods. Now, the reason why I brought up John Hughes is because she talked about how it was from his own experience. And we go through his insane credits if we go to the bottom here, starting in the 80s. So, Mr. Mom, which I believe was Hulk Hogan, was it not? No, I'm thinking of Mr. Nanny or something like that. So we got 16 Candles, which she was in. Big movie, not big for me. Vacation, obviously, epic movie. Breakfast Club, epic. European Vacation, he wrote all the Vacations. Weird Science, very awesome 80s movie. Pretty in Pink, one of her bigger movies. Not familiar with it. Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Uncle Buck, again, these are John Candy things. A Christmas Vacation, which is iconic, of course. Home Alone, iconic. Ends up writing Beethoven. If you're a kid from the 90s and Beethoven wasn't on your watch list, there's something wrong with you. Home Alone 2, The Home of the Trump. Dennis the Menace, we can keep going. Miracle on 34th Street, 101 Dalmatians. Maybe Flubber in Home Alone 3 is where he starts to lose his edge. My point is this guy wrote all these movies, and you're saying it's too white to reproduce. So first of all, it's very weird that you would think that there aren't, places in the United States, which is still at least 60% white, where there isn't just a predominantly white high school, not by, segregation reasons, but naturally, just that's the environment growing up. That's weird to say that would necessarily be the case if you were to remake the movie. Oh, it can't be white because there are no high schools where the student body is predominantly white. That's impossible. Even though, how many kids were in Breakfast Club? 5, 6? So it's not like it represents the entire school population. It's actually saying that these kids were bad. They got detention, but you can't even say that. So it's weird that you'd be comfortable with remaking these movies just as long as the races were different. That makes you a little bit of a psychopath, in my opinion. We can do these stories again, but then, they need to be more diverse. And the other weird thing about it is that she mentioned that it was, these movies were born out of his own experience. So why does his experience have to change because 30 something years have gone by? That's an odd marker to take, because if you had Boys in the Hood, or Friday, I'm trying to think of my favorite 90s black movies. The one where Queen Latifah and the other girl Rob Banks. If these stories were written in the 90s by a black person stemming from their own experience or things that they knew about, would you then in 2025, let's say, be like, actually, Boys in the Hood need, I forget the guy's name, run down the alleyway. He has to be Mexican. Ice Cube's character has to be played by Jack Harlow or something like that. And we have to have more diversity in the Boys in the Hood cast because, South Central or Compton or wherever it took place, I don't remember, has to represent a more diverse populace because it's 30 years later. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't dare do that to a film that was written by or predominantly featuring black people. You wouldn't say Beverly Hills Cop has to be Eddie Murphy has to be a different guy now. There's tons of movies that existed at or around the same time. And Molly Ringwald knows this. I mean, either she was completely moronic when she was a kid and had no sense of what was going on around her, or she's just pretending that she forgets. But people born after like 2000 like to pretend that there wasn't like black media back then. And there was a lot of it. I watched a lot of it. I grew up watching black sitcoms, black music, obviously listening to, and black TV shows. And nobody ever talked about black. It's a black show. This we have to, or a white show. This we have to remake it with more diverse cast. That never came up because we weren't weirdos. But for her to pretend like this didn't exist, and then say the white movies need to be remade with a diverse cast, it's just really like, it's one of those situations. Are you dumb, or are you purposely pretending this is how it was? And John Hughes is probably, upset from beyond the grave about this. I would be, if you were to take my creative works about my life and just say, actually, for our own weird racial perversity, we need to change it moving forward. That's the sick reality. Now, if we want to go to probably way weirder than that. And by the way, Molly Ringwald didn't say anything else of merit. She actually just said something like, she said something pretty nice about. We'll be fair. We'll share what she said. That was nice. She said, the only thing that will stop you is you. So all you have to do is keep doing what you are doing. She's talking to young actors at this point. That has always come back to me, because it's a really hard business. There are ups and downs, and there's a lot of competition. Now, it's interesting that she said last year, I believe it was, that she spoke out against cancel culture. She said that after the Me Too movement and Harvey Weinstein went to jail, let's blow that up for you guys. Sorry about that. That a lot of people were being swept up in the cancellation. So she was a little bit worried about that. But now maybe she got a couple phone calls and she decided, I'm going to have to say diversity is actually what we need moving forward. But I want to move on to Wonder Woman. This DC Comics are still going strong with Wonder Woman. And surprisingly, they haven't made her fat and ugly. Maybe that's because, what's her name? Who's the Wonder Woman star, imaginary producer? Forgetting her name right now. Anybody in the chat, let me know. Big star. But they haven't made Wonder Woman fat or gross or ethnically different yet. Not even in the comic books, which surprised me. But I guess they didn't want to stem away from her being like an in-shape Amazon woman. So what they did instead is they just like, we can't change Wonder Woman. So let's go ahead and attack society through what she's battling. And what they had her battling in Wonder Woman #8, written by a man, by the way, what they had Wonder Woman battling was traditional conservative Christianity. This and the Bible. This was literally what she's battling in the latest issue. And there will be spoilers here. If you are a hardcore DC comic avid reader, I don't hate you. I just want you to know that there will be spoilers here. We're going to show a few pages. And this is what you have to look forward to. So obviously they're making Wonder Woman look like a bit more of an Instagram model here. I don't know if this is a picture. This is an official DC image. I don't know if this was a woman. They went into one of those photo booths that sketches you, takes your picture and sketches you. But this is what she's looking like now. There's another picture of her down here where she's looking real buff like. She's got the influencer look here, right here. And so they haven't completely made her, a butch lesbian as of yet. But what they have done is they've gone ahead and said, Wonder Woman, we haven't changed her, but let's battle Christ. Let's battle Christianity. Let's battle tradition. And that's exactly what they've done. So I believe we're about to bring up page 3 of the comic here. This is the first scene, right? It has Wonder Woman saying, and this is basically the narration here in the blue. I'm so sorry, honey. The roast's not quite done. The recipe said it would only take 2 hours. Comic book starts, Wonder Woman, trad wife in some sort of weird futuristic world that's like the 50s, but they have cell phones. And he's like, I guess it's all right, dear, but you did say dinner would be ready at 6, and it's important to keep your word. I've still got to go out with the boys. And, she's still happy. She's got that dark glimmer in her eyes where she's kind of sad, you can tell, and that's consistent throughout the whole comic. And that's page 3. We go on a bit further to page 6, and what's happening here is um, Wonder Woman is battling a villain. He's in her lair. I wonder if we can share that with you. I'll find it. Wonder Woman is in some guy's lair. That was the she's tied to this pole in some guy's lair, and she's subdued with a rope that feeds her like this lie, this narrative that's in her brain. And that's what's going on here. And this whole time she's battling basically her own psyche. She's being force fed Bible scriptures. She's being force fed passages from the Bible that support, like a traditional trad wife lifestyle. So we skip ahead, and now we're talking about this guy complaining he's the worst husband in the world. He's a military member. She's doing everything right, but he hates her. He's a piece of crap, and she's basically a broken down traditional Christian housewife. It's a little tough, isn't it? Says the husband. Last time you said it was too rare. I think. Tonight I hope perhaps I have missed it again. I can improve. I can improve. I promise you, my Stephen. So even when he's complaining, she's so sweet, and he's like, another excuse, another promise. Sure, okay, fine. It gets down to the point here where he's like, "What's wrong with you? You're sick. You're not eating?" And she says, "Well, I do need to watch my figure." And he's like, "That's good, honey, you stupid bitch." Is basically what he's saying. And it goes on like this, and it gets more and more ridiculous. And I understand what we're doing here is a comic book and it's exaggerated characters, but it's what it all means, right? The depiction of a traditional lifestyle of a Christian woman married to a military man. He's the worst person in the world. And, this is a storyline somebody came up with. This isn't just like, you pulled topics out of a hat. This person said, she's bound. She can't just be in like a 1950s traditional place that, most women, many women, I shouldn't say most, but a significant amount of women would say they don't want to live that way. But it had to be like Christian, American, military. It had to have Bible passages. And later in the comic, she's asking him, "Just what time will you be back? I will miss you very much." And he says, "Holy shit! I don't know, Dana. I'll be home whenever we're done. What's with all the nagging?" And she's like, "No, I shouldn't." And then he punches her in the face, but not really. He goes, and this is like how ridiculous it is. "You can't cook. You never know when to shut your mouth. But damn it, you do look all right in that outfit." He's got that voice. "But woman, damn it, you do look all right in that outfit." And then these are her thoughts about the lasso, keeping her down. And eventually what happens, and we'll get to that in a second, actually. So some of the things that she's going through here, the Bible passages, let's go through them because they're absolutely insane. So, hold on, just let me bring some of these up. So, like here, she's saying Ephesians, the apostle Paul on husbands and their wives be subject to their husband as you are to the Lord. So throughout the story, she's being force fed essentially Bible passages that adhere to or are in relation to a woman being submissive to her husband. And these are the things that are meant to brainwash her. These are the things that are meant to keep her in line in this psychosis. We've got another one here. 1 Timothy 2, 9-15. Likewise, as this guy pours wine on her. Also that women should adorn themselves in respectful apparel with modest and self-control, not with braided hair and gold of pearls or costly attire, but what is proper for women who profess godliness with good works. So this whole time, this villain's trying to keep her in line with Bible passages, but eventually, of course, and I shouldn't forget this part, is that and again we're saying spoilers. What saves her, of course, is her mother, who is obviously some type of Greek goddess, comes and saves her. She says, basically, you're a strong woman. You don't need no man. Leave with me. And this is all inside of her mind. So her mother appears in her mind. And that is what eventually gets her to break free from her reins. She grabs the guy by the throat. But not before, ladies and gentlemen. Wonder Woman does not escape this hell that is a Christian trad wife universe with cell phones, and she's cooking bad steaks, and she's cooking bad eggs, which is one of the scenes we didn't see. She cooks bad eggs for the guy, and he's like, this is a very important day for me, and you're burning my damn eggs, woman. And she's like, why aren't you listening to me? She's had it. But after she breaks out of her psychosis and beats up the supervillain, she's got to get one more jab in on this guy. And it comes in the form of her goodbye letter. Steve, my mother came by. I'm leaving with her. I'm not coming back. The truth is, I'm not who you think I am. I'm only who I think I am. Shot through the heart. That's really what should play as like the toughest, female thing to ever happen. And he's reading it in his mind here again. P.S. The house is a little mess, and you're going to need a new vacuum. Oh my God, no, she didn't. At the same time, look at the caption here, the narration. It is a truism often preached and often proven. Every man has his limits, a point at which he will break. Even we, who commanded hundreds of millions, as you will see, even we eventually found ourselves shattered. But her... we pushed her as far as any man has ever been pushed. But the clay from which she is made, it will not crack. So this guy writing this is writing this like it's 2016, like the fate of the world depends on the Trump-Hillary Clinton presidency election. And he's with her through and through, and women can do anything. And yes, I understand Wonder Woman's a very powerful woman, obviously, in the comic book universe, but every single thing in this is she don't need no man, Christianity oppressive, man oppressive, all this stuff, evil villain using the Bible to oppress her. But this is written by a man, and I read the entire thing. I read the entire comic book, and almost every single page, aside from the advertisements for the Flash and whatnot, is dripping with a guy who's typing this or writing it by hand, I'm not sure. And he's thinking to himself, man, chicks are gonna love me for this. And it's the exact same attitude that people at Vice had, the same attitude people at BuzzFeed had. All these places where they had to lay off the staff, or, any number of outlets where allegedly feminist men were creeping out girls and getting arrested for various things. Allegedly, of course, we're not specific to any particular outlet. But that's exactly what this attitude is. I'm your best friend, ladies. I'm a feminist. I love you. I believe in you. I'll agree with anything you say. Please just go out with me. That's this issue of Wonder Woman through and through. And what have we seen from those types of men? What do they always turn into? What have they turned into? We can see what those men have turned into. They have turned into the men that are supporting other dudes going into women's locker rooms, going into, swim against 13 to 17-year-olds, play volleyball against college girls, wrestle girls, do track and field against other girls. This is where the feminism guys lead. It eventually leads to their own misogyny, if you want to use, we don't have to use that word, but their own bias working against them. They don't actually care about women. Do you think this guy cares about Wonder Woman? He's writing for it. He cares about how he's perceived. And it wasn't John F. Trent, actually. It was another guy. Let me just look up this quote that my buddy from the Blaze sent me. Through and through, this guy is just bleeding his own ethos through his pen. And what I believe it was Joe McKinnon said to me, Joe McKinnon from the Blaze, go read him if you can. He's a good writer. He sent me the quote regarding this. A good novel tells us the truth about its hero, but a bad novel tells us the truth about its author. And then he said something else that I'm not sure he wants me to say on the air, but it's completely right. All this does is tell us about this guy as an author that the main focus of this is who he can attack through his art, rather than focusing on Wonder Woman being, a badass. She's got magical powers. She's from a crazy magical place, and she could just be kicking people's asses. But no, he brings in Christianity, the military. We've been over this. Now, do this for Islam. Do this for Orthodox Judaism. He does this for Christianity because it's an easy and soft target. You're not going to see Wonder Woman fighting the Sunnis and the Shiites in issue number 9. You're not going to see issue number 10. She's going to go and free the Uyghurs in communist China. She's also not going to go to Palestine and condemn Hamas. These are things that Wonder Woman's not going to do. But what she will do is say straight white male who's Christian and believes in serving his armed forces. This is bad. And again, this is like a 2016 guy who's wearing the big H that looks like a hospital H. I don't know why Hillary Clinton went with that. The H with the arrow pointing towards a hospital. I'm with her. This is what it embodies. And 9 years later, we can see what these guys manifest into. This guy's stuck back there. He's stuck in the Hunter Avalon, the who's Chank's nephew. He's stuck in that camp where it's like, we didn't really have to evolve. I'm going to Google things, and nobody's smart enough to read between the lines. That's the camp this guy's stuck in. But the rest of his ilk, they have graduated to this whole, pro-trans thing. You're a TERF. Girls, anybody who goes against the original ethos of what fundamental, leftism is, which is just a reflection of what a communist leader is trying to get you to do in this year, they got stuck there. But for those of them that didn't, and they evolved with the programming, it's anyone who disagrees with, the establishment viewpoint on gender, sex, race, or government. They're going to follow that. So I won't be surprised if this guy's like, Wonder Woman may or may not be trans, or Wonder Woman has a trans partner who's actually in some ways stronger than she is. Let's take a quick commercial break. Patreon.com/UOPod is where you can get bonus content. You can sign up and help us be Joe Rogan. And by that we mean podcast till our heart stops, I guess. You can also become a Raptor super fan for $21.50 Canadian a month. This is based off US prices, so it's even cheaper than that. If you're watching from the United States or the UK, you're getting basement bargain prices. We've got unique content and bonus podcasts on our Patreon page, where you can be an unauthorized person and suggest topics and request personalized messages and the like. And we have done videos on topics that have been suggested from the fan base. You'll get bonus podcasts. You'll get bonus content. If you haven't seen the behind the scenes stuff with me and John Doyle from Texas, you're going to want to see that. If you haven't seen the podcast with me and Anomaly, you're going to want to see that. And if you haven't seen some of these comedy interviews, you're going to want to see that. UOPod on Patreon, patreon.com/UOPod. Something else that we're debuting is Blaze Media paywalled comedy. We're doing comedy interviews on Blaze Media, Blaze News, if you want to be specific. First one is with Kyle Lucy. I've got some very exciting guests coming up. We don't want to show you the whole article. It is paywalled. You'll have to go and sign up to Blaze for the full story. And I just want to quickly scroll without you guys seeing the text. We have an interview here with Kyle Lucy. And again, we've got some more coming up. And you're going to be excited with who the guests are. This is more of a podcast style, but we're focusing on comedians, cancel culture, the entertainment industry, being offensive and stuff like that. So any of these comedians who have gone and put their neck out there to speak the truth, to say things uncensored and not be afraid and not be shut down for their opinions on things and their own jokes, we are celebrating them. So that's Blaze Media at theblaze.com, and you can sign up to get these interviews and these articles. There's a lot of other cool stuff going on the website as well. If you're interested, you can subscribe in the top right corner there. It's only a couple dollars a month, $3 a month. theblaze.com. Moving on now. We're back in Echo Unlimited. And frankly, it's hot in here. I was cold earlier. I was like, I better bust out the baby blue. And now I'm sweating. So we'll see. Will I pass out? Unknown. Will I, go into some sort of diabetic seizure? Because I've been eating a lot of chocolate lately. I can't lie. Will bad things happen to us during the broadcast? We can't guarantee anything. We would never guarantee anything but fun here on Unauthorized Opinions. We're going to jump on over to the guy who invented pop-ups, pop-up ads. And this is a wild story. And if you thought that, what does the guy look like? Pop-up ads look like? Does he look like Jeff Bezos? Does he look like any of the other people who have invented something huge that's gotten out of control? Does he look like the Zuck? Does he look like Elon? If you guessed he looked like Penn Jillette the magician, then you would have been correct. His name is Ethan Zuckerman, pretty close to Zuckerberg, but he is the inventor of pop-up ads, allegedly. I mean, really, couldn't you just claim that if you were a computer programmer and you had pop-up ads a really long time ago, you could probably just say, no, I had it as well. That AOL online disc, that was me too. Ethan Zuckerman, and this is from a page called Wasted. Ethan Zuckerman, a media scholar and director of MIT's Center for Civic Media, recently penned a lengthy post in The Atlantic expressing regret for his role in creating the pop-up ad while working for website builder Tripod in the 90s. I've never heard of that. Let me know if you've heard of that. I've heard of GeoCities. Remember that website builder? Zuckerman explained that he wrote the code to launch pop-up ads with the intention of hiding banner ads on explicit websites. It's interesting. However, he now acknowledges the negative impact that pop-up ads have had on the internet and apologizes for his contribution to it. Despite initial good intentions, Zuckerman now recognizes the pervasive nature of pop-up ads and their detrimental effects on the user experience online. I feel like the pop-up ad is pretty much a non sequitur at this point. Is your life really that invaded by pop-up ads these days? In 2024, I could see that being more of a 2010 problem, but pretty much everyone has a pop-up blocker or in a browser that they're using that inherently blocks pop-ups. Now, I'm not saying you should, and I'm not saying blocking stuff for paywalls. Of course, we wouldn't want that. I'm saying blocking just have you tried these penis pills? Girls next door want to get in touch with you, that sort of stuff. I don't think that's a real problem anymore. I think it's a very, 2010, 2013. Now, I'm thinking back, and in 2013, I came out of the military, I think, or maybe it's a bit earlier. But my point is, when I came back, I had left a computer at home that my mother was using, and I came back. It was running completely smooth when I left, and when I came back, it was unusable. And I'm talking about, 6 search bars in the browser, unlimited pop-ups. Thanks, what's his name? Not Zuckerberg, Ethan Zuckerman. Things were pretty much unusable. If you had a boomer who had gotten out of hand and started using Facebook a lot or something, and you left a computer with them, there was no ad and no email that they wouldn't open and click on. $2,000 from a Nigerian prince? Yes, please. Would I like? No, I won't say that joke. Let's just say it had 3,000% increase in something. Would you like hot singles in your area? Yes, of course. There's nothing my mother wouldn't have clicked on. Why not install this toolbar? Why not install this search bar at the top that actually tells you what you could save at Walmart, for example? But there were 6 search bars. The computer became unusable, unrecognizable. It's like if somebody, if you parked your car somewhere and you left the doors unlocked and somebody stripped it for all of its parts. That's what my computer felt like. It wasn't it anymore. It was like this, a girl who moved to Australia because she wanted to experience the culture. And when she came back, she wasn't the girl you thought she was anymore. But yeah, I don't know if pop-up ads are the biggest problem in the world anymore. I'm just going to say. And he's a little too late, I would say. If you came out in 2010 and said, I'm sorry for pop-up ads, then I'd be okay with it. But at this point, I don't think it's such a big deal. I want to switch on over to Dana White. UFC 300 just happened, and what an event it was. Now, myself, like many people, were a little bit skeptical. A lot of people thought that UFC 299 was a better booked card than 300. Now, 300 was amazing. It turned out to be amazing. I didn't think that it was going to be shit. I didn't think it was shit like so many people did. I just thought, I would have rather seen a different co-main event probably. And the co-main event ended up having some sort of weird substance issue, smelling salts involved. The main event was a knockout in like 30 seconds. Gaethje and Holloway was amazing. Top to bottom, it was an amazing card. I would have never said coming into it that it was going to be shit, or some of the things that some of the media outlets said. And I'm not saying it just because I want to get on Dana White's good side. I'm saying this because it's true. I would have never said that Cody Garbrandt and Davidson Figueiredo opening the card was going to be a bad idea. And that's the reason why I watched every single fight on the card. But Dana White decided to come out and do a little bragging, do a little bit of rubbing it in the face of certain media members. And he just, I don't know if he started trying to start a war or whatnot, but he just eviscerated the media here.
What's up, guys? As we rolled into UFC 300.
By the way, Dana White talks so loud. I always wonder, like when I'm ordering pizza, like in store, if Dana White would be standing there talking at the same volume. I would hope so. What's up? I want a pepperoni with
the MMA experts weighed in on what they thought of UFC 300. And for all the fighters that were on this card, when I said this is the greatest card ever assembled in the history of combat sports, this is what the media thought of you guys.
UFC 300 makes no sense. Is any fight on this card 300 worthy?
Let's point out that Brendan Schaub was a fighter in the UFC, and he's a stand-up comedian. He just refers to him as podcaster. No question that was on purpose to say that and put him first.
No.
This is the most diabolically disappointing UFC 300 announcement ever.
It feels kind of thrown together.
It was the most disappointing UFC 300 announcement ever. Have there been other UFC 300s that I'm not aware of? Oh, it's Ariel.
It doesn't feel like the culmination of something big.
We were continually told that it's going to knock your socks off. It's going to be amazing.
What did Dana say about this guy? We're going to blow their socks off. I wanted my jaw to hit the fucking ground.
I did expect a little bit more from the company to blow us away.
Nobody got blown away. Nobody.
We need people that know the sport to be running the show because this is pathetic.
UFC 300 is the worst promoted fight card ever. Worst put together fight card ever. Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway for the BMF title, which I think is the corniest nonsense on earth.
Weili Zhang against Zhao Yan. China's going to get all excited, and I don't think anyone else really cares.
UFC 300 will be a disaster.
Are you kidding me, Dana White? The most monumental card that there's ever been. You've had a whole year to prepare for this. Aren't you trying to make sales? Don't you want people to actually buy the pay-per-view? This ain't it. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a regular, decent pay-per-view.
Watching two Chinese fighters competing for UFC gold. Insane. To be here for this card, I'm just blown away.
So obviously a big commercial at the end. Now, I understand that some people were looking to make names for themselves with, inflammatory or energetic statements, but to say that it was going to be a disaster, to say that it was one of the worst announcements ever, to say that, the stuff on it was a joke. I don't know who a lot of those guys were, but the guy who is audio, it was only audio. Brian Campbell, I'm not familiar with him. Lucas Tracy, this guy, he said this is going to be, what do you say?
Show, because this is pathetic.
This is pathetic, he says. Like, I'm not sure. If you weren't excited for Gaethje and Holloway, then you're insane. I'm surprised Big John McCarthy, saying that, we can't just not have the title fight, women's title fight, buried in the card. That's just not how it works. And then there was an article in there. Who is this from? Odds Shark. And then they show a picture of McGregor Diaz. We deserve a better main event. First of all, Diaz has a fight on June 20th. He is doing boxing right now. He has done boxing. McGregor, of course, was hurt. He's set to fight Chandler. They could, the testing pool and everything involved with that. Not to mention, neither of them are champions. You can't put them really ahead of champions. You could get away with putting them ahead of a women's fight. But Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor aren't going to accept being third on the card or second on the card. People would be so angry, and especially people in MMA media would be so upset if Diaz and McGregor was ahead of 2 title fights or even 3 title fights, if you're counting BMF. Holloway and Gaethje was the third to highest fight on the card, which is crazy. That's a main event. And you think that there should have been a McGregor or Diaz number 1, that would have made Ariel Helwani so mad. That would have made so many MMA podcasters and commentators so mad, because they have said this in the past. They have said, you can't have Conor. How are you going to have Conor McGregor headlining this card when he's been out of the sport for so long? How are you going to have him headlining the card when he's not a champion? They got mad when he would get title shots. They got mad when he got the Eddie Alvarez title shot. They got mad when he got even the Cowboy fight, probably. And they're mad when Diaz got Leon Edwards. Like, they get mad when these people jump ahead of the line and when super fights are made. But when you have, the light heavyweight championship with Alex Pereira, which a lot of people like. I'm not the biggest Pereira fan, but he's a weapon, as you can call him that. When they're putting legitimate fights at the top 3, and yes, I guess it's UFC 300, but they would have complained way harder if it was super fights leading the card. There's no way. John Jones was injured. I mentioned McGregor. I mentioned Diaz. The BMF belt is there. Sugar Sean just fought. The idea that what they did would have gone over better with MMA analysts if they had gone the super fight route is insane. It would not have. It would have gone way worse. There would have been way more complaints. The worst I think you could have complained in this sense for the UFC 300 would have been like, yeah, I guess it could have been better, but it's still really good. And it overperformed. It overperformed over expectations. But to the degree at which people were complaining about, get them out of here. You can say what you want about how Dana feels about Brendan Schaub, obviously, and Ariel, obviously. That's why they're up towards the front. But Ariel's going to live to fight another day. But the rest of these guys, I don't know. You're saying the people who are booking this need to learn more about the sport. I mean, these are just factually incorrect things. You can't just go out and say like, oh, the UFC matchmakers, they don't know anything about it. It's like, have you seen the other cards? Have you seen the other promotions? And have you wanted to watch more than 2 or 3 fights on one of those cards ever? Maybe the PFL Bellator merger was their best card ever. But other than that, have you wanted to watch 3 or 4 more fights on one of those cards? No, you haven't. And I get it. I was there. I argued with my friend over UFC 300, but it delivered. And now you look stupid. I'm sorry. What time are we at here? Let's do a bit more. Let's quickly go to Patrick Mahomes. I almost said UFC champion. He wishes. Back-to-back Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes. He commented on why he didn't make gun control comments after the Super Bowl parade shooting. And, they have to ask these questions over at Time, which is no longer a magazine. We're just time.com. They have to ask, hey, why didn't you say something retarded? Tragedy marred the team's victory parade in Kansas City a few days after the Super Bowl win. A mass shooting, which authorities say appeared to stem from a dispute between several people, left a mother of 2 dead and a dozen others injured. Court documents say a dozen people brandished firearms and at least 6 people fired weapons. Mahomes and his wife went to the hospital to visit children. They donated $50,000. But despite some calls for him to do so, Mahomes did not advocate for tighter gun control laws. Now, that just shows you the angle of this article right away, is that they believe that as a Super Bowl winning quarterback who's not named Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, they have the right to be like, hey, man, what gives? Why didn't you call for tighter gun control? Wouldn't these criminals have, abided by the rules if you just had stricter laws in place? If you said shooting people was against the law, don't you think they would have second-guessed themselves? Bro. Mahomes said, I want to continue to educate myself. I don't want to make a quick response to something that takes a lot of education to really learn and make a swaying comment based off that. But I know we have to find a solution of some way to make this stuff stop. And, they went on to point out basically, now I'm going to say that he did this stuff and he was wrong about this stuff, what I'm about to read. But Time Magazine acts like, well, you did the right thing before, so why didn't you do it again? They said about the death of George Floyd, he and other black NFL players posted a video calling for the NFL to condemn racism and admit wrong in silencing our players. So he came out in support of George Floyd and Colin Kaepernick, which isn't the same thing at all. One's a communist, one's a drug addict who died. Colin Kaepernick isn't out there like, I despise Colin Kaepernick, but he's not a drug addict thief who's peddling counterfeit bills. Like, he's following the law for the best of my knowledge. So that's not the same thing. And then they talked about Mahomes, supporting LeBron James, who's an extremely political, athlete in his own right, who is called, voting ID laws racist and got the MLB All-Star game taken out of Atlanta, which obviously was counteractive because it cost the city so much money. But they mention that he helped LeBron, he helped the NFL talk about George Floyd and Colin Kaepernick. We'll play that video in a second. But he also had comments on the presidential election. He says, I don't want to pressure people, or I don't want to pressure anyone to vote for a certain president. I want people to use their voice, whoever they believe in. I want them to do the research. Now, I don't know who he would vote for. He really does a good job of making it hard to tell, which is what, a good athlete who doesn't want their opinions out there would say. But it seems to me that he's probably more likely a Democrat voter. Colin Kaepernick is a moron. He absolutely has no point that he made, and he's never made an attempt to properly explain it, nor has he followed up on chances to get back in the NFL. He's made a circus out of it. Shaq didn't like it. Jay-Z didn't like it. All these people didn't like it. Colin Kaepernick didn't care. He knows he can't play in the NFL. He just wants to make himself more money. George Floyd, do we even have to get into that? Do we even have to get into the sham that is that? I don't know. LeBron James, like I said, hates Trump. Said the former coach of the Chicago Bulls is racist. Said voter ID is racist. Said the laws that they passed in Georgia were racist. Therefore, we shouldn't have the MLB All-Star game there, which obviously makes a black city money, but that's supposed to make sense. But the video that Patrick Mahomes was in about George Floyd is just moronic.
It's been 10 days since George Floyd was brutally murdered.
I mean, okay, first of all, this guy's voice, but George Floyd brutally murdered. Okay, let's just go ahead and put an asterisk next to that.
We need to ask you to listen to your players.
NFL players are speaking out in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. In a powerful video shared to...
If I was George Floyd.
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd.
There's Mahomes.
If I was George Floyd.
I am George Floyd.
I am Breonna Taylor.
I am Ahmaud Arbery. I am Eric Garner.
I am Tamir Rice.
So obviously they have no, Trayvon Martin. We can go through them quickly, which is like the bane of a hardcore leftist position. What if I was George Floyd? I'm not sure which NFL player that is. It might be DeAndre Hopkins. I think so. What if I was George Floyd? Were you addicted to fentanyl? Did you commit a robbery against a woman who was pregnant and put a gun to her? Did you spread counterfeit bills? That's my question. What if you were George Floyd? What's one of the other name? Eric Garner. I think that was the guy who's selling cigarettes. Breonna Taylor is one. What if you were Breonna Taylor? What if you were dating, allegedly, conjecture, Your Honor, what if you were dating a drug dealer and they were performing a raid on his house and he wasn't there and they accidentally shot you? Okay, I guess. What was one of... It gets better, I guess.
Issues, including admitting fault in silencing their players from peacefully protesting in a seeming reference to former NFL player Colin Kaepernick.
The players would like to hear you state,
We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
We're against racism. Here I was thinking that you guys were for racism, and the other name they mentioned was Trayvon Martin. Obviously, he was beating up a guy who wasn't even a white guy. He was a Hispanic guy, George Zimmerman. He's just white passing, I guess. And, you know, that whole story. But the systemic oppression of black people, and we condemn racism. The idea that the NFL was for racism is one of those stupid positions that I think a lot of companies have. Like when you go to a store now and it's a big chain store and they have a pride flag on the front or they have a trans flag on the front and it says everyone's welcome here. Don't you know everyone's welcome here? And you're walking in and you're thinking, hey, I didn't think that gay people weren't allowed in the store before. Why are you making a point to say this? Usually you make a point to say something if it's expected that they aren't allowed. If you say, you know, PetSmart, if you guys have ever been to PetSmart, you're allowed to bring your animals there. That's very nice of them. Most places you're not allowed to bring animals in. And that's why they make a point to let you know that you can bring animals in. But the last time, you know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if I had gone to Canadian Tire or Walmart, I wouldn't have thought, you know, there's no sign here saying that cross-dressers aren't allowed. There's no sign saying here that, you know, 50-year-old guys who think they're women and want to compete in sports against teenage girls, real thing. I thought those people weren't allowed. You better put up a sign for that, just so I know. And, you know, these NFL players, they're millionaires. It's a real shame. This was at the, you can cut them some slack, I guess, if you want to say, you know, this was at a time where things were less scripted, but all it took was a little bit of reading, just like COVID, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, just take that one extra layer deep, just go the little extra layer and you will find, I promise, what you're looking for. And that is the truth. It's something that you need to do for any story that gets vastly painted across the mainstream media. You need to take a look at that with a keen eye and say, is there a reason why this is being pushed from so many angles? And the obvious question is the obvious answer is yes, there's a reason for that. Thanks for watching uopod.com. Check out the Patreon. Check out theblaze.com for our paywalled comedy special interviews. They're very good. They're a lot of fun, uncensored and everything. And do us a favor and subscribe there and subscribe to the Patreon. Everything's too white these days. We can't remake these movies. We can't remake Batman if Bruce Wayne, Alfred, you know, I guess they kind of did that with Commissioner Gordon. Who am I kidding? Wonder Woman, Fat Lesbian Wonder Woman coming to a theater new year. I promise you.
Turn it up, Jordan.